Can you believe that in the year 2020, you still have a bunch of delusional retards going on social media trying to convince people that the newest No Man's Sky update is the one. This is the game where the game finally lives up to what it's promised to. Actually, with the new Origins update, they've gone a little bit farther than that. They've gone a little bit more extreme. They are outright saying that No Man's Sky Origins, the newest Origins update, is now better than what Sean Murray initially promised. And this is like really laughable for a lot of reasons. For anyone who remembers the No Man's Sky debacle, you remember the bullshit with like the completely organic like alien life, the online multiplayer, like I think there was supposed to be like there was supposed to be some in-depth like political like limitless like alien factions like fighting for each other that you could work for. Like there was all these bullshit situations that were not true when the game first came out and still have not come true. Like they've tried to get people to sort of like they tried to get people to like start paying attention to them. They tried like making minor changes and being like, hey, there's online multiplayer here now. You wanted online multiplayer? The thing is though, the game has been out for a while. The game has been out for years at this point. Everybody knows that No Man's Sky is not very much fun to play. I remember people saying that like Beyond changes everything, Beyond improves on the game, it's so much better. It's like No Man's Sky 2. It's that much of a radical change. And then like people went ahead and played it and realized very, very, very quickly that it was a lie, that it was a marketing stunt, that it was the same game with some minor additions. And I think Origins is no different. I think Origins is just the same thing we've gotten since the last couple of updates. Just they add a couple of things and then remember this was in one of the original trailers. Yeah, the trailer that you released 5 years ago. Like, are you serious? Like, I know a lot of people are coming out and saying that like, oh man, No Man's Sky is putting this in there for free. You don't understand that they have to do it. Right? They have to try and salvage this game as much as possible, considering how much money and marketing dollars went into it. Like they need to salvage this game's reputation in order to like sort of save their company. You know what I mean? There's like a lot of weird things going on with that. This was a timed PlayStation exclusive, which I think explains why the gaming media has always been very, very defensive of the title. Hyping up the game. Backing up Sean Murray's statements pre-release, damage controlling it post-release, and continuing to hype it up now with the updates, like pretending that the updates are some radical major change. Here's the thing about No Man's Sky. I think this alone exposes what this is. If No Man's Sky was legitimately good now on its own merits, you wouldn't need to keep mentioning the rocky launch. If it was good on its own merits, you should just be able to say that No Man's Sky is a good game. You shouldn't have to go out and say like, oh, it's a good game now. It's not like it was at launch. Look at like Final Fantasy XIV, right? Like a massive disaster launch of an MMO, right? It had all these problems, it had all these issues. Again, I'm not familiar with Final Fantasy XIV and like the specifics, but like basically nobody liked it. It was basically completely unplayable, and Square Enix had to scratch the whole thing and re-release it. That's kind of that's the Final Fantasy XIV situation. But since then, it's kind of cultivated a cult audience to the point where I would say it's probably bigger than WoW. Although Blizzard and Blizzard drones don't want to admit it. Like they managed to legitimately salvage this broken, unfinished, buggy mess of a game, right? And they did things to make that happen. They had to work a lot. They probably shouldn't have had to re-release the game. That was kind of always bullshit. But I just feel like this idea among the No Man's Skies fans, right? This narrative that the game is somehow better now, it simply doesn't hold up under any kind of scrutiny. right? I kind of wish I had this on had my OBS pulled up now so I could show you some of these weird tweets I've been getting. Like I've been talking shit about like COVID-19 and like women in the workplace and shit like that on Twitter. And the thing that gets most people angry at me is talking shit about No Man's Sky. Let me see here. Let me see if I can find my tweets. Maybe I should just I kind of do want to showcase the responses. Maybe I should just do that live tonight. Maybe that should just be something I do later. Yeah, maybe I'll just cover the tweets themselves live tonight on Lee Live, the Black Cat Show or whatever we're calling it now. I have no idea, but like it's very clear. Like nobody talks about No Man's Sky whenever it's not time to hype up an update. You know what I mean? Like nobody is playing it when the game isn't getting an update. When the game is just like staying the way it is for the foreseeable future. When there's no update on the horizon. When there's nothing new to talk about. Like silence, like literal silence. Like I've seen images that prove this game has this this endless customizable endlessly replayable, endlessly explorable, like unlimited space simulation game where you can go anywhere you want and explore anything you want. Yet that game at one point had 0 players on Steam. Like it's that boring. Like nobody enjoys this game. Nobody talks about it unless it's update time, unless it's time to try and convince people that the game is good now and that you should go out and play it. And I'm not going to, right? I'm one of those people that have been talking shit about this game since like 2014, right? Ever since like the VGA thing and like the Tropical Freeze, when like we saw that fake ass reaction to No Man's Sky when like people were declaring it like the best game of that show, the show that nobody cared about, and like kept building and building and building to its eventual release in 2016. And when it came out 2016, it was, surprise, a complete piece of shit. Not even worth talking about, let alone like playing or enjoying. Like, why did anyone believe this was ever going to work? And it was frustrating from day one, right? Seeing these people, the same people, mind you, try to damage control the game, like saying things like, oh, your expectations were too high, it's good for what it is, you were expecting too much of it, like small indie team, yeah. Things like that, right? Like endless amounts of that. And then when the update dropped, the game is so much better now, ignore the old complaints, they don't matter anymore. Like Sean Murray listened and he delivered. He delivered. And like, you're also seeing a bunch of, like, shills. Let me just say this. Internet Historian is a complete piece of shit and shouldn't be taken seriously. Like, it's so frustrating, like, talking shit about No Man's Sky on the internet, like, knowing all about the game, and, like, seeing people, like, link that video to you, like, oh, this video proves you're full of shit. That video is pure propaganda, right? The game is not significantly improved or changed than it was from day one. It's just the same game. Like, it's not magically good because it got an update. You know what I mean? Like, the core gameplay is still boring and stale and repetitive as fuck. And no amount of updates can really change that. Like, you would have to, like, completely rebuild the game, which hasn't happened from what I understand. They would not be able to release a sequel because, like, people would not be buying into it. Like, people would not get hyped for No Man's Sky 2. If it came time to talk about No Man's Sky... Here's the thing about the free updates, right? The reason we haven't seen a No Man's Sky 2 yet. Hello Games had their reputation completely destroyed because of this video game. You cannot talk about Hello Games without bringing up Sean Murray, his lies, and just the pure nonsense that they put us through these past couple of years. And for most people, and I think this is the big thing, for most people it kind of ended in 2016. Like, the game is out, it's shit, move on to other games. Like, how many other bad games have come out since 2016? Like, you have, like, God of War 2018, Like a lot of people don't. A lot of people still pretend that game is good. You have like a lot of the PS4 games in general, like lots of there was lots of shit, right? Starlink was like a No Man's Sky knockoff. It almost felt like, and that was forgotten rather quickly. Even with the Star Fox cameos, even with people trying to say it was better than Star Fox Zero, which of course it was not. I I have extensively been covering No Man's Sky. I've been like following it like casually since then. Like I know what the pattern is. I know. I've actually just wrote a an article about it on blackcatbooks.org. So you should probably check that out. Very very proud of that piece, talking about like how the pattern of this and just like the fanboys and the shills and just the radical sort of thing, the links they go to try and pretend that No Man's Sky is good or even worth playing. Like it needs to be addressed. It's like Five Nights at Freddy's syndrome or Undertale ism. It's like or the Undertale brand of autism. It's like just because a game is talked about online, that doesn't make it good. Like a lot of times, especially in this day and age, like it's because of like some viral marketing campaign. You know what I mean? It's because the developers know people who will talk about the game. This is kind of what Gamergate was about, in which Zoe Quinn fucked a dude and got her game on a website, featured on a website. That kind of thing happens all the time. You know what I mean? Like Celeste was everywhere, even though it's shit. Like, Undertale was everywhere, even though it was shit. Like Five Nights at Freddy's was big because of the streaming thing. That was super shit. Like it's just like outside of this like obsessive group of people who adamantly believe or want you to believe that No Man's Sky is good. Who do you know who plays No Man's Sky? Who do you know who cares about it? Who do you know who even remembers it was a thing? Outside of update time, outside of Sean Murray hour, where we try to pretend Sean Murray is one of the greatest game developers on the planet, like there's no enthusiasm. There's nothing. There's no real fan base. There's no real like conversation on like, shipbuilding tactics or like gameplay styles, because there's nothing like that, right? It's No Man's Sky. It's not worth talking about. It's not worth remembering. It's not something that's worthy of being admired. It was just a thing. It was basically the Star Citizen, right, of PlayStation, right? It was the same kind of thing. Like, oh, you can do all this shit in space. You can do all this shit in space. Won't it be cool? And people just sort of ate it up just because of that. I don't know what it is with these like sci-fi people, with these sci-fi audiences just coming out who just adamantly who are just obsessed with like flying a spaceship through space. Like, just come on, play a good game. Like, wait for the good game to come out and then support it. Mass Effect was shit. Anthem was shit. Do people defend Anthem? I don't think there's any defense of Anthem anywhere. You never know. They might try to release an update or something and try to sell it again. Again, this is kind of a problem with like with the modern gaming thing. Like, it's not enough for a game to come out anymore. Now you gotta like, they're gonna be updating patches for years to come. And no, if it's not good day one, it's never going to be good. Okay, I've never heard in my entire life of an example of a game being patched so that it's good. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like you're making an excuse. Like, every single time you're trying to justify, games being unfinished, being broken, being glitchy, being literally unplayable. And, they'll fix it with a patch. That's like PC gamer logic. Oh, you can play this game. You can play this game. You can play this console game once you update all these patches, all these fixes. And it is nonsense. It is bullshit. It is ridiculous. No Man's Sky is pure shit and always will be pure shit. Like, there's nothing else to talk about, I think. Sean Murray is a hack. No Man's Sky is not and never will be good. and we will never see, we will hopefully never see or hear from him ever again. I hope he leaves the industry in obscurity, and I think he is on that path. Like No Man's Sky is the only project he's ever going to be well known for. Like Hello Games is just garbage. It's never put out anything good. It never will put out anything good. No Man's Sky is one of the most frustratingly. If a game flops, if it bombs, if it's not very good, I want the gaming public to start addressing the fact that it's not good. No more excuses, no more damage control, no more like saying things like, "Oh, well, it's good at what it tries to do." No. No Man's Sky was pure shit from the start, and you should have seen through that. You should have seen through his lies, and what? You should have seen through his lies, and you should have been able to see that No Man's Sky was a piece of shit.